Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hi, I'm CA Aditi Shah, and welcome you all to this wonderful session today on internal audit's role in healthcare industry. Uh, a very interesting topic, and the speaker we have for today is CA Mohidan. So, welcome, sir. Thanks a lot for joining us for this session. In terms of brief profile of Mr. Mohit, I would like to say a few words. So, as I mentioned, he's a FCA, but apart from that, he's done DISA. He's certification in fintech from IIM Ahmedabad and IFRS, and he has over a decade of experience in various areas. And he's currently leading the risk and assurance consulting and spearheading supply chain finance. Apart from that, he has various contributions and publications to the ICAI. And to name a few, he's co-authored the technical guide on internal audit for pharmaceuticals. He's a faculty member of internal audit and speaker at various ICAI events, just to name a few. Thanks a lot for coming for this session, and I pass it over to you to share your insights on this interesting topic. Thank you so very much again. Yeah.
Thank you, Aditi. Thanks a lot. Let me just share the screen. Can you see my screen? Can you please confirm?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Just. So thanks, Aditi, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. First of all, I appreciate Board of Internal Audit and Management Accounting for having me here on this platform to discuss on a very interesting topic, internal auditors' role in healthcare sector. Being passionate about internal audit and healthcare sector, I think this is a good opportunity for me also to learn and meet everyone here on this platform. So when we talk about healthcare sector, we all know that this is a sector which make us pride as Indian because we are called as the pharmacy of the world. We export to more than 200 countries. We are the third largest vaccine manufacturer. We manufacture most of the generic drugs in India. And also, we contribute a lot, not much, but 3 to 4% of our GDP through this sector. And this sector is basically, helping us to enter across the world in the healthcare sector. So today, what we are going to cover here is we are going to talk about healthcare sector very briefly. And in healthcare sector is a broad area. So we will be covering a pharmaceutical in the healthcare sector, and we'll cover a couple of areas and risks. What exactly the risks are there in the pharmaceutical sector, and how internal auditor can help to mitigate those risks. So, to give a brief scenario of healthcare sector and pharmaceutical sector in India, as I mentioned, we are the global leaders in generics. That means we are the largest provider of generic medicine drugs across the world, which is affordable, which is accessible, with a good quality. So this is a good sign. But the second, if you see, we are the third largest globally in terms of volume. So we produce third largest volume of drugs in across the world, but value wise we are 14. So if you combine first two developments in this sector, it clearly shows that we are making a generic drugs which are low value drugs but high quality, right? So this is a good sign that at least we are in the volume, we are the third largest, and you all know that first and second is basically US and China, China and US. But this also shows that we are not the innovators, right? So that's slowly the industry is transforming through innovation, and you would see during the COVID mRNA vaccines, etc., is being now developed. And that's how we are moving, and a couple of more areas we are moving towards the innovation. See, if you talk about this industry is transforming towards self reliance. That is basically we are currently almost 70% of the APIs, that is active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is used to manufacture the medicines, are imported from the other countries, right? And it's concentrated from one country. Now, with the help of government support, looking at PLI schemes, that is production linked incentive schemes, etc., the API manufacturing is also developing in India. So these are few things which are coming up. You will see Ayushman Bharat scheme, right, through the government again to help a particular sector of people towards their better healthcare. This is also adding on to the accessibility of the healthcare in the country. And with these couple of actions that is being taken by the government, we say that this healthcare sector is being transforming to a next level. So India has most of the US FDA compliant plants. Uh, if you talk about the drug companies which manufacture or which sell or which market the products, domestic formulation or export, 3,000 companies are there, close to 10,500 manufacturing units in India. And if we talk about AIDS, we are globally supplying 80% of the medicines globally through India. So if you see, and that's the reason we are called as pharmacy of the world. We are exporting to 200 plus countries. The government is also supporting with incentives like PLI, Ayushman Bharat, and also technology is playing a very important role in the healthcare sector in terms of R&D, in terms of drug discovery, in terms of digital platform, telemedicine, etc. So it's a very interesting development or transformation that is happening in this industry. And when there is a transformation of anything, the professionals like us, which do understand the compliance, which do understand the business, can add lot of values in the business. And you all know that healthcare sector is a very regulated sector where there are a lot of laws which are applicable. If we talk about, which we'll cover in detail in next few slides, but if we talk about the laws that are applicable in pharmaceutical sector, at least one company will have 60 to 70 laws to comply. It will have a general law, corporate law, labor law, industry specific laws. And when there are so much complication in any industry, then a professional like us, an internal auditor, the auditors, chartered accountants can help the organization from the regulatory compliance point of view. Looking at this, it's very transformational. It carries a lot of strength overall, and that's how I think it's one of the emerging industry where professionals like us can help lot of add lot of value to the organization. I usually I see healthcare doctor and IA function in the with the same lens. Why? Because, for example, you have some you're not feeling well, you'll go to the doctor, or you want to reduce your weight, or you have some parameters which is not right. You'll go to the doctor. He will identify what is the problem, what is the objective, and he will give you a health check and then the prescription or the plan. If you think from the organization perspective, today the internal auditor is as good as your family doctor or a MD medicine. Because whenever you have an issue, you just call your doctor and say, I'm not feeling well. He knows your DNA, he knows your father, he knows your mother, he knows your family, he knows that what genetic in case there is any like blood pressure or diabetes your father has hereditary and all, he will know, right? I feel that businesses also, every business has their own DNA. If it is in the same sector, same size, but two companies will have their own DNA, right? And being an internal auditor, I feel that we have access to everything. We have access to your budgeting, strategy, board, access to the board, access to the statutory auditor, access to the plan that you want to do, how you want to expand, execution. I always say you have access of right from security to the MD, right? Being an internal auditor, you have access to everything and you have good grip of the business. And that's how, that's why I call it as a, organization doctor or a IA function or a risk doctor for an organization. Because if any organization have any concern, they can come to you and then you can solve it, or you can, advise to go to an expert. And if we go more in detail, if we look at it, if a doctor, if you have any issues, they will do examination. And same way as an internal auditor, what we do is basically we examine the organization by way of looking at the risk universe. We analyze the risk, we analyze what is a risk universe. For that we make a risk based audit plan, right? We do the testing like how your doctor would recommend you the blood test. We do risk control metrics through the data analytics tool or manually, right? And based on that, doctor will get your results and say, oh, you are perfectly right, nothing to worry. Or he will say, okay, go to an expert, you have this issue, right? Same way we give you assurance that okay, the company is doing good. Or we'll say okay, we'll report to the audit committee or board that these are some our concerns which needs to be addressed. So that's why healthcare doctor and IA function, I think, has a lot of similarity. If we talk about the healthcare sector has various segments covering hospitals, pharmaceuticals, diagnostic. Again, diagnostic is one of the upcoming area. Medical devices, again, one of the highest manufacturer of medical devices, medical insurance, telemedicine. These all are part of healthcare sector. In the interest of time, we will be covering one particular area, which is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceutical is basically companies which are manufacturing, marketing the medicines for humans or animals, right? Mainly covering humans. If we talk about pharmaceutical sector, it is divided into two parts. One is API and other is formulation, right? So API is basically active pharmaceutical ingredients, or we also say a bulk drugs, right? It is basically it is a raw material for the API or raw material for the formulation. So end product is your medicine, which we are saying here formulation, and that is made of active pharmaceutical ingredients, right? So that is one industry which is making raw material for the domestic formulation, and other is the formulation. Formulation is basically the medicine that we are talking about, right? Then again, it is this industry, formulation industry can be divided into domestic formulation, exports. It can be divided into chronic and acute segment. Chronic segment is basically where your prescription is more than, let's say, a couple of weeks. For example, if you are having a chronic disease like blood pressure, diabetes, neurological disorder, then you will have that is called as chronic segment. Acute segment is basically if a shorter prescription of 3 days or a week's time. For example, you are having a viral, you're having fever, throat infection, antibiotics. That all will come under acute segment. See, it is very important to understand which sector, which area the company is going to focus on, what is their strategy, because each area we talk about within the pharmaceutical sector will have a different approach and strategy, right from marketing, production, expiry, life cycle, raw material, API, pricing, etc., regulation, and other stuff also. So that's why it's very important to understand which the organization that we are talking about or you're working with falls under which category, and what is the objective or what is the risk that we are trying to identify. So now let's get into risks that any company would have. So let's take an example, right? So if, for example, any company which was assuming that they have their factory licenses, their corporate office, etc., now they want to manufacture a medicine. Now let's go through a life cycle of a pharmaceutical manufacturing till sales and understand what is the process and what is the risk, and then we'll come to how to identify the risk and how internal auditor can help. So, for example, a company is a manufacturer of a tablet, right? For example, a tablet for a blood pressure, cardiology company. Now, if to manufacture that medicine, first and foremost, company needs to have license of that product. So for the license of the product, they will have to go to DGCI, right? Drug General Controller of India. They will have to get the approval of those license of that product. Once they have got the license of the product, they will start manufacturing the medicine. Now, to manufacture, they need to have raw material, which should be from the approved vendor, approved quality, testing, quarantine, in-house testing, etc., etc. Then, once the GRL is done, they will do, they will start the production. So, when you manufacture a medicine, each and every action or life cycle of that medicine is being recorded, and that is called as a batch record, right? So basically, we had a BPR, batch processing record. So we create a batch record, the batch is created, and then you start issuing dispensing the material, and each step you do the in-house inline testing. You see whether the adequacies, whatever is expected, that results are coming or not. After that, once the medicine is prepared, you need to see that, okay, what wastage is left. If that wastage is there, whether it is treated in a right way to dispose. Like, you cannot dispose, you can't take it and sell it like a scrap like other industry, right? You need to perform certain steps before disposing it. And there are ways what to dispose. If it is a narcotic drug, psychotropic drug, or if it is a hazardous, non-hazardous, there are different kind of complexities there, which is covered under the waste disposal or environmental laws. Once the that is done, then you come to the packing. You do a packing of the product. After packing, it will be dispatched to your central warehouse, or it will go to your CFA, right? If you talk about the life cycle or supply chain of a pharmaceutical sector, like, if you would see that you buy from a retailer, right? Retailer buy from a stockist gets goods from CFA, and CFA is nothing but an extended arm of the company. So the supply chain will be central warehouse of the company, CFA, which is carrying and forwarding agent, stockist, and a retailer, right? So then you will send goods to CFA, then it will sell to stockist, and then it will go to retailer. You need to see that if it is a cold storage product, then you need to maintain the temperature, whether stockist has a license, the retailer has a license. You are managing the inventory in a right manner. All those things needs to be covered before the medicine comes to a patient or a consumer. And once the medicine is sold to a retailer, then you need to ensure that, okay, is there any expiry? The goods could not be sold if the expiry is less than 6 months. All those complexities still is involved in this whole business, right? And if, while after selling, if there is any adverse drug reaction, if I've taken that medicine and I'm feeling giddy, or I'm not feeling well, then I can report to the company. So it is called as adverse drug reaction. So in a pharma company, the most important is maintaining of the quality of the product, right? Maintaining the right compliances, having the GMP, that is good manufacturing practices in the manufacturing process. Looking all this, you need to identify that what are the critical risks of the organization. So one is the risk of the industry worldwide, risk of the industry in that region, risk of the therapy, and also then you need to consider the organization you are working for as assignment or as a internal auditor, and then you need to find out those kind of risk, assessing the complete life cycle. And as an internal auditor, our role is to find what are the risk involved in each of these process. As I mentioned in manufacturing, right, whether the approvals have been taken rightly. Just because there is a sale, it should not happen that before getting the license, manufacturing has started. Just because sales team wants to push the sales and they don't want to lose the sale, it should not happen that the API which has come in is being used for production without getting it tested, or in line or in process testing is it's not being done. Because end of the day, if some at the stage one some product has failed, if you have not tested it in a right manner, at the end of the project will fail, right? It will not achieve that efficacy or that result that you want, and end of the day the whole cost will go away, right? So that's why it's very important to understand that what are the risks specific to your organization that you are working for, and as an internal auditor, what processes have been implemented and whether it's being done properly or not. See, it's also a complex method. It's also a complex subject for us being a finance guy to understand what exactly pharmaceutical is all about. What is the granulation process? What is the packing process? What is crushing process? Depending on the form of tablet, syrup, the method will change. But we need to learn all those things to understand and to audit these industries. And if we cover all this, so this is basically we covered the business. If you want to manufacture one medicine, what can be the process? And if you see that all the risks that we spoke about, GMP compliance or environmental issues or quality issues that will fall under any of these major areas. So generally we classify the risk into these five areas. One is regulatory risk. And we all know, as I mentioned, that regulatory is one of the very important risks of the organization because there are multiple laws which is applicable. So one is regulatory risk. Second is operational risk, which is cover quality, supply chain disruption. Then there can be a financial risk. See, financial risk again in pharma has because of two, three reasons. One is basically you have to keep stock of raw material. You need to keep stock at CWH, CFA, at all those levels. So working capital is generally a little on the higher side. That is point number one. Second is, a lot of companies today, if you see, to scale up, a lot of companies are basically buying or acquiring the brands, companies, or in licensing. And these are larger deals. If you talk about pharma, if you are acquiring a brand whose sale is 100 crore, the valuation can range from 200 crore to 600 crore, 500 crore, depending on the therapy, depending on the network, depending on the gross profit, EBITDA, etc. Right? So all these companies who want to scale up generally do a inorganic growth by acquiring a brand or by acquiring a company. So a lot of money is being invested in these events, and hence either it can be through raising more equity or leveraging through debt. So we need to understand that, okay, what is the finance cost? What will be the repercussion going forward? Also, we talk about the risk which is related to IP infringement. So the asset of the pharma company, see, it is all knowledge-based sector. It is a knowledge-based sector, and the IP is the knowledge, the product, or the patent that a company will or a patent that company will have, right, for the products that they are manufacturing. So there can be a lot of reasons when you have started selling the product, but tomorrow some other company has filed a suit against you and saying that, hey, this is my trademark, and there is a litigation. End of the day, you have to stop the product. So there can be revenue loss due to IP infringement. So these are the cases of financial risk. Technology risk, again, all the companies are transforming, all the industries are transforming in terms of because of the IT transformation, because of the business complexity transformation. So there is a risk, and there is a peculiar emerging risk in this sector. One is the quality of the product. Reputation risk due to the quality of the product or unethical practices, and fake or spurious drugs. So if you see, not every medicine that you are eating is is the right medicine, in a way that it might not give the full impact or efficacy that a medicine should give. It can be fake or spurious drugs. If you talk about WHO, it says that 20 to 30% of the medicines that are sold in India is spurious drugs. That means, if, for example, you are taking medicine A, assuming that this is manufactured by company ABC, but you never know that that product is never manufactured by ABC, but it's written ABC. It's a fake or a spurious drugs. It might give the same efficacy, it might not give the same efficacy. So these are some of the emerging risks of this sector, which as an internal auditor, we need to see, okay, how we can prevent that. For example, spurious drugs, we can look at the packing, we can look at some reconciliations, we can look at some advanced way of barcode, or all these measures can be taken. So once we identify the risk, then we can work with the management and to look at what are the existing processes and what we can add value to mitigate these kind of risks. Now, what we'll do is we will cover, the areas, the broader areas which in the pharmaceutical industries, what areas as an internal auditor we can audit, what we should look at in that particular area, and how it can add value to the organization. See, we all know that today, as an internal auditor, though our job is to give assurance to the management that okay, everything is going on fine, or this needs to be improved, but at the same time, we also have a dual role of advisor as well, where we need to see that how we can add value in the organization, how we can mold the processes or help to strengthen the process so that the value can be generated in the organization through our internal audit function. Though it's not our primary role, but end of the day, as I mentioned, we know each and every function, we know each and every process of the organization. So we are the best guys to discuss with the management, brainstorm with the people, and come out with the right sort of effective processes which can add value. First and foremost important area of audit in pharmaceutical industry is statutory compliance. So statutory compliance, there can be multiple statutory compliances. One, as I mentioned, corporate, labor laws. So these are commons in all the industry, right? So you'll have PF, ESIC, you'll have GST, companies laws, profession tax, etc. So this is common in all the industries. There are few peculiar compliances which is into the pharmaceutical sector, which I'm going to cover in detail. So we'll discuss there. Production planning control, it covers basically production right from sales forecast to production of the product, final production, dispatch of the product to central warehouse. This also we are going to cover in detail. Procurement to pay, this is a process of right from requisition, getting the quotation, requisition, procuring in the right manner, quality product from the right vendor, right price, right time, and to the payment, right? So this area is covered. Order to cash. This also we are going to cover right from receiving an order and getting the money in the account. We are going to cover in detail. Hire to retire, again, hire to retire. This we are not going to cover in detail, so let's elaborate here only. Hire to retire process, basically right from the budget, employee budget, that okay, what is the budget in each department in the company, what is the budget, head count budget, and as well as your monetary budget, recruitment process, methodology, then onboarding, training, HR compliances, salaries, then retirement or separation. So this is common all across. What is additional in pharmaceutical sector is basically a couple of things. First, if you see any company which is doing, let's say, 500 crore business or 1000 crore business, will have, let's say, 2000 employees, for example. And out of that, 1500 people will be in the field. And their work is to go and visit the influencers, the doctors, right? So there is a lot of travel cost that happens. So there needs to be a check on the reimbursement that is happening for these employees, because it's a huge cost for any pharma company, right? It can go up to if we talk about MR level, it can go up to 5, 10, 20%, 30% of their salary, right? So it will be a huge cost. So one, that is a we need to have the right process, and as an internal auditor we need to see how we can automate that process so that there is no documentation which is left or documentation error, and at the same time right amount is being disbursed, right? Second is basically calls, right? So if we talk about pharmaceutical industry, as I mentioned, these MRs will basically, their role is to go and visit the doctors. You would have also seen while going to the doctors, there will be a lot of MR sitting. So they'll have target of meeting X number of doctors. Generally in the industry, it is, let's say, 10 calls a day, right? So have they done that call? Some companies will have policy, if you have not done 10 calls, you have done less than 6 calls, your 50% salary will be considered because you are not effective as as you should be. So these are few things in HR we need to consider, which is not in the other industry, but especially in the pharmaceutical industry. Then look at, while going to the plant audits require few of the very critical thing. One is the plant can be GMP, good manufacturing practices, or it can be WHO GMP, right? So depending on those license, you need to review their process. You need to understand whether those qualities, product quality matrices are being met, the waste disposals are being done in a right manner, pollution issues, etc. These are, because of the kind of raw material or finished product that is being produced, the how it should be disposed is also mentioned as per the law. So we need to ensure that that is being done, raw material is being retested, and a lot of the expired product is also disposed in a manner which is being prescribed. ITGC again normal, based on like we do for the other industries, and ERM basically entity level controls, which will cover all at your strategic level. So let's cover few areas which are specifically from the pharmaceutical sector. This is just an overview or comprehensive overview of core and non-core processes in the pharmaceutical sector. So already covered just a brief procurement to pay. So in procurement to pay, right from the procurement plan, vendor evaluation, master, GRN, invoice, vendor payments will be covered, manufacturing we are going to cover in detail, supply chain management, order to cash, and sales marketing expenses. So these are basically our sales and marketing. So these are the core areas of the business, and there are a few support areas. Support areas will be like H2R, audit from the audit perspective, H2R, financial reporting, regulatory and safety, insurance, CSR, related party, entity level controls, information security, etc. So while planning, we need to have a right mix so that we cover the core areas as well as support areas for our audit. So let's come to first area, which is production planning control. Just give me a minute, please. So let's talk about production planning control. This is one of the core process of manufacturing, core process in the pharmaceutical sector. Complex from the point that one is regulatory, second is quality, third is documentation, and four is the complexity of business and product itself, right? So as an auditor, we need to ensure and understand that what exactly it's required to be followed in that particular factory, right? So in production planning control, we are going to cover right from the production plan till the execution and production of the product. First, I'm going to tell you, the broader picture, like what all is covered, and then we'll discuss about what can be the risk and how it can be mitigated. And that's how we'll do for all the three areas. One is procurement planning control. Then we are going to cover order to cash, and then we are going to cover statutory compliance. So we'll be covering three core processes. Now, production planning control, right? So this area basically covers right from the planning, production, and dispatch of the goods. So these are the three. If you broadly cover, that is one is planning, of production, planning of raw material procurement, uh, doing the production activity and execution, and end of the day, after packing, it's getting dispatched in the factory warehouse, central warehouse, or to the CFA. So these are the broader areas of manufacturing. Now let's go step by step. Now, if you want to manufacture, you want to decide that what we should manufacture in this month or this week, how you will arrive at that, right? So you will arrive at, okay, what is my sales forecast? What is my stock lying at central warehouse? What is my stock lying at CFA locations? What are in transit stock? See, this is the common practice, if, whether it is pharmaceutical or any other manufacturing of goods. But what additional will come in here? It will come as basically what is my shelf expiry, right? How much product will get expired in next 6 months or 3 months or this month? That also you need to add. Based on your assumption, what expiry? So there are two expiries, right? Rather three expiries. One is raw material expiry that will happen. So you need to control that or plan that while doing a raw material acquisition planning. There will be a expiry of self expiry of the product on the shelf. That means the products are in warehouse or CFA location which is getting expired in this month, so you need to take it back and replenish. Third is expiry, that is the goods that is being sold in the market, but as a practice you know that okay, 3% of my product, 4% of my product, or 1% of my product will come back as a return, so I need to also manufacture those additional products, right? So these are the few complexities which will add on due to the nature of the industry. So expiry sector will be added, so you will do a sales forecasting planning, and then you will decide whether you want to manufacture it in-house or subcontract or contract manufacturing. Again, it's not about, if you, let's say you are a steel manufacturer, you are manufacturing pipe. So it's very simple to see, okay, I have this capacity. Let me, I want 1000 ton, I can make 500 tons, 500 tons I will give to third party, get it manufactured. Very easy. Or if you have 600, you'll say, okay, plan change, I will make 600, 400, you make and give it to me as a third party. But in pharma, you need to understand and ensure that you have a license of that product. You can only manufacture if you have that license, though you have a capacity, but you don't have the license of that product. Process could be same. Tablet, you have a tablet line which is empty. You have 10 crore tablets a month capacity which is there, but you don't have a license, so you can't manufacture, right? So you'll have to get it manufactured from somebody who already have license of that product, right? So this is additional layer of complexity while planning whether to make in-house or subcontract, right? So first I mentioned, in the forecasting, you need to see whether expiry is there, shelf expiry, raw material expiry, market returns. Then you need to consider whether for in-house manufacturing, contract manufacturing, whether we have license, we don't have license. Then obviously you will do a material requirement planning considering all these complexities, and then you will issue PO, GRN, and checking of material, and you will invert the material. Once the material in his warehouse, you will start the production process. So production process, we call it as a production indent. So there will be a monthly production indent based on the batch, based on the ingredients, intermediaries, and all those stuff. You will plan, okay, what needs to be made on which day. And then, production indents will be made, batch will be created as we discussed. The batch will be created, then there will be a batch manufacturing record. Batch manufacturing record will be created. There will be a material dispatch. Manufacturing process will be done. Once the product is manufactured, it will go in the packing. And when the packing will happen, then there will be a batch packing record that will be created, right? So batch packing record will be created. Again, see these records, if you would have visited pharma companies, each and every action or a event that has happened with that particular medicine is being recorded, right from which equipment is used, what time, what was the yield, what was the efficacy in license, in process testing, what was expected, what is the overall yield, who tested, what time, what is, you can track each and every thing that has happened to that batch. And that's the role of the auditor also, to ensure that that is not recorded. Because if you go to few companies, you will see, oh wow, what a record they are maintaining. But you need to ensure that whether that has actually happened while creating that batch or processing that batch. And also it will cover manpower planning, machine availability. See, these are few things which are common with any industry. But batch records, packing records, batch creation, approvals are something which is specific to the pharmaceutical industry. Once the production is being done, again you will dispatch it to either central warehouse or CFA. And few other things that you need to take care of is material returns in terms of quality, scrap sales, batch processing, plant and machinery maintenance. So these are the few things which you need to understand as a process, what it takes, to manufacture the medicines and what steps are required. Now, covering all these areas, I think you can make it out that there are multiple risks which is involved in this process. So if we start from right from here, right? First we say sales forecasting. What can go wrong? My sales forecasting can go wrong. See, and that's why I say it's a bit critical to identify all right sales forecasting. Because if you have more inventory, okay, it's okay. If you are, let's say, if you are into manufacturing of computers, right? You manufacture more. So what will happen is your net working capital will go up, your investments will go up, but it's okay. Like in the next month, you can make less, and you can cover the cost. But in pharma, if you have done a wrong sales forecast, or then you will obviously either carry more inventory or less inventory. And less inventory, sales loss. If more inventory you are carrying, then there is a possibility that your product will get expired if it is not sold in that particular timeline. So, for example, on an average, your life cycle, the expiry is, let's say, 24 months. So there will be some time it will be made, it will be sent to central warehouse, it will send to CFA, CFA will hold for 3 months, it will sell to stockist, stockist will keep for 3 months, and then it will sell to retailer. Again, he can keep for 2 3 months, and then he will ultimately that product will get sell. And there is also logistics involved and multiple things involved, right? Few medicines will have 6 month, 1 year expiry, some will have 2 months expiry, and goods generally are not sold by CFA to stockist if expiry is less than 6 months. So effective life cycle, and 3 months it takes to reach CFA. Let's assume that 2 months, 3 months. So effective, you have 12 to 13 months, including your logistic cycles to sell that product. But assuming that you have done a very aggressive forecasting, and you cannot, and your sales is delayed by 6 months, then there is a possibility that those products will get expired, and you will lose the money, not only of the cost but also the logistic carrying cost, etc., etc. So that's why it's very critical and complex. I would say the sale forecasting, and being an internal auditor, we can play a lot of value added role here to do permutation and combinations to verify the sales forecast based on the last 6 months sales, 3 months sales, talking to the sales people, and ensuring setting a right formula to identify the sales forecasting. We have experienced, promoters being aggressive, sales team being aggressive. They say, okay, we'll do 10 crore sale per month for this product because ATC has happened. Till last month, it was 2 crore. How you can sell 10 crore from next month? right? Being aggressive, they will tell supply chain guys will take it, start manufacturing. End of the year, you will see that products are getting expired, and the expiry has gone to 20%, 30%. Being in the small companies, large companies will have 2%, 3%, 1% kind of expiries, but that's fine. But small companies will have 10, 20, 30% if the sale forecast is not right. Right, so it's very critical to find out sales forecasting is done in a right manner. And I think as an auditor, as an internal auditor, we have large role to play to ensure that all these parameters, expiry, stock, how much stock we should keep. We should just keep an idle stock. If we keep more stock, it will get expired, right? So all those planning, so there is a risk of sales forecast associated with that. There's a risk of expiry. There's a risk of huge inventory cost, carrying cost, net working capital, speed to market. Then we have a third party risk, right? You're not manufacturing in house, but you are manufacturing to a third party to ensure the quality. Then there's a third party risk. If you are manufacturing in house, then there is a product failure risk. There is a risk of low yield, right? You expected that, okay, out of this size of batch, I can create 90%, 95%, 98% yield, but you got 70, 80% yield. There is a possibility of batch failure, as I mentioned, right? There's a possibility of cost going overrunning the cost for the batch cost, right? So these are few risks that is there in production planning control. And as an auditor, we need to review each and every process. We need to understand, review, learn, implement, and then audit, right? And you need to get involved in all these process to mainly understand that what kind of forecasting, what kind of how the stock is being taken, what is the provision for expiry that is being taken, raw material process, how it's being taken, whether raw material is in place, they are buying more raw material, they are overstocking. So again, it will impact. Raw materials generally have 5 years expiry, so that's not a problem. But again, you have to retest after every 6 months, depending on the nature of the API or raw material also. But all those risks and complexities are there. So these are the few risks we discussed: inaccurate demand forecasting, capacity planning, uh, supply chain disruption. As we discussed, most of the APIs are mainly dependent. We are depending on one country. Then again, price fluctuation, raw material availability, insufficient scheduling, right? Process monitoring. Again, sometimes what happens is that due to the pressure of getting the production done, in process monitoring does not happen, and that's the major reason of product failure, right? So at the end of the product, you will see that product has failed or batch has failed. Why? Because you could have reworked, retreated the medicine at a granulation level or first level or second level, but that at that point in time, the QA or QC did not monitor the process or the quality in a right standard manner. Yield risk, product failure, stability risk. We all know that product, depending on the product, if it is an innovator product, if it is a new product, biosimilar, etc., we need to have a stability data. So you need to see that, okay, whether the product is stable, and then life cycle or expiry of the product increases. So you need to ensure that the product is stable. Sometimes you feel that product is not stable, you have to recall the product. Maintenance risk, cost overrun, on-time delivery, yeah, narcotic products handling risk. So if you are psychotropic drugs or narcotic drugs you are handling, then it's a different SOP that you need to follow. It has to be under log. You need to have those licenses, and it's a very critical thing to handle. So you need to ensure that, okay, the right kind of SOPs are structured around that. Expiry of raw material, risk of raw material shelf life management, and batch expiry alignment. So batch expiry alignment means is basically raw material has 6 month expiry, but the batch has, let's say, 2 year of expiry. So you need to align batch expiry with the raw material expiry. So these are few risks which I thought it can help us to understand how what are the risks and how we can add value to these kind of risks. And I think PPC, O2C, these two process, production planning control and order to cash, are the two process which are basically very critical and have peculiarity of the pharmaceutical sector. Now let's talk about order to cash process. So order to cash process is right from getting an order. So as we discussed, I'll just repeat. If you talk about the supply chain of any pharma company, so there's a pharma company, they will have their suppliers for raw materials, suppliers for packing material, and suppliers for finished goods also. So there can be multiple suppliers, and there will be service providers. On the other side, on the demand side, there will be a chain of distribution, right? So it's a complex distribution again. You'll have your factory warehouse, you'll have your central warehouses. Central warehouses now after GST, most of the companies have done a central warehouse, limited to 2, 3, 4, 5 locations and not every state. So they will have a central warehouse. Central warehouse will sell. So central warehouse is a part of company. It will do a stock transfer to CFAs, which is carrying and forwarding agents, and it is also an extended arm of a company. So it's not a sale, but it's a stock transfer. And from CFA, it will go to a stockist. So that is the first sale, primary sale that we say, that the sale from CFA to stockist, and then stockist will sell to the retailer, right? And retailer will sell to the consumer like us, right? Based on the prescription. So central warehouse, CFA, stockist, retailer, and then consumer. So this is a supply chain distribution on the demand side of pharmaceutical sector. So order to cash covers right from order that is received by CFA from the stockist to supply to the stockist, getting the money. In the meantime, finding a right distribution gap, finding a right stockist, onboarding them, doing all the formalities, setting up the masters, looking at their licenses. They should have food license. If you're supplying the food product, they should have drug license. If you're supplying the drug product, they should have a narcotic license. If you're supplying the narcotic drugs. Again, these are something which is peculiar to this industry and not common in every industry, right? So all those licenses, then the association is very strong. If you have heard of AIOCD, All India, Association of Druggists and Chemists, basically they are a strong association. So if you're changing the stockist, there's NOC and all those stuff, right? So those things needs to be addressed in the distribution. Once the stockist is onboarded, then you will sell those products to stockist, and then regular payment follow up. Generally, a working cycle limit on the receivable side here. If it is within the same city, generally 7 to 10 days. If it is outside the city, it is 21 to 30 days. And the credit limits, and then they sell to the retailer. Retailer again has a cycle of, from stockist to retailer, the cycle would range from 30 days to 45 days. If they are supplying to institution, then the working cycle is close to 60 days to 90 days. But that is the responsibility of the stockist. The company's responsibility is to collect money from the stockist. So what we are going to cover in order to cash process is onboarding the stockist, supplying them the goods, and collecting money from them. And also again, there, as we mentioned about the expiry, there will be expiry management at a CFA level, and we'll see how it goes in this industry. So, as I mentioned, the process first will be, stockist onboarding, then there will be inventory movement, order processing, invoicing dispatch, receivable management, yeah, right, the sales return management, physical verification at a CFA level because it is the extended arm, expiry management, and then the CFA expenses because generally these CFAs are on the commission basis. That company pays the commission based on the sales that they have done to the stockist, right? Because they are just an extended arm for distribution of the company. Now let's see step by step what it takes to onboard the stockist, how it is supplied, and what risks are there in the industry, and how internal auditor can help to mitigate or minimize the risk. So if we talk about first, as we spoke about, see, ultimately, who is going to buy the medicines? People like us, whom the doctor has prescribed, will buy the medicine. He will buy from a retail shop. You are a good company, your product is good, doctor has prescribed, but end of the day the medicine is not available to in that retail shop where the doctor has prescribed, or in that city, then it will not help you in the business, because you have already spent a lot of money to promote that, in terms of scientific study, in terms of keeping people, and sending them to the influencers. They have done it, but if at a distribution level that medicine is not available near your doctor or in that city, then you might take a substitute of that product and use it, right? But the company has lost the sale. So it's very important to have a product availability of those medicines in that particular area. So it's a joint efforts of sales and marketing and distribution to see that there is if there is any distribution gap, that means you don't have a stockist in that area, and you don't have availability of your medicine in that area. So once you identify the distribution gap, you will appoint see the who's the potential stockist in that area. For example, I'm from Pune, so in Pune you will say, okay, Pune, I think we need to have two distribution, or in the rural Pune we don't have the stockist, so let's find one stockist who will cater to. See, each stockist has their own set of retailers. So let's say for an example, one stockist will have, let's say, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 retailers depending on the size of the stockist. So he can cater to that particular area. But you are seeing that, okay, in the rural side, I also have 500 retail where my product is not available, right? So you will find another stockist, you will find a potential stockist, you will see their documentation, their reputation, etc. You will create a file, then it's a master creation and all those stuff. Once that is done, you will do an inventory movement. Now, when you are doing an inventory movement, so I'm talking about inventory movement at a CFA level. Now, how it works is basically a company will keep, let's say, a 1 month stock at a central warehouse. They will say we should keep at least two, depending on the companies, it ranges from 1.5 month to 3 month stock at CFA level, right? So we'll keep that, and then they will sell to the stockist. Stockist, based on their demand, they will buy. If there's a demand, they will buy. If there's no demand, they will not buy. Ultimately, if you over push the goods, ultimately it's going to come back to you, because expiry you have to anyways take back, right? So that's how it works. Now, when we are doing a movement of inventory, and it's a very scientific way to do that, and also to, it's a lot of, you need to see a lot of parameters to ensure that at the end of the day, you are not piling up the inventory at one location, and also it's not getting, concluded as expiry, self expiry. So now what you will do, you will do a location wise inventory requirement analysis, then you will do the shipment. Generally, companies have fixed criteria. They will do every week. They'll see, okay, what is the SKU wise, location wise inventory that should be there in that location? What is the shortage? They will send it through the central warehouse. They will allocate the inventory, and that cycle will keep on going, and then inventory will be received by that location. It will be further reviewed if it has been getting sold and not. It's a lot of analytics. What I'm trying to convey here is that a lot of analytics is involved here, and companies are doing that. Being an internal auditor, if your client is not doing that, you can add lot of value in this particular area, right? Once the order is received, once the CFA has received the movement goods, then on receiving the order from the stockist, he will record the order, he will start dispatching and processing the order. He will look at the credit limit. He will look at whether the credit limit is available, whether we are receiving the funds in the right time, etc., etc. And then otherwise system will get locked, and the orders received, everything is okay, dispatch, goods in transit, cut-off procedures will be reviewed, and sales will be recorded. So this is broadly, that is there in the till the dispatch. Then there is a receivable management. If there is a check dishonor, then you have to follow up on the money. This is a regular practice which is in all the industry. Sales return management, this is one thing is critical. Now, how it works? We saw that how the goods are sold from central warehouse, from CFA to stockist and retailer. Now, what will happen is if there is an expiry at a CFA level or there is an expiry at a stockist level. So, what will happen? Now, stockist will give the expiry back to CFA. CFA will verify, okay, this was those goods were sold by me or by by the company, and he will receive the goods. There is a limit, okay, after expiry they should receive in 7 days, 30 days, depending on the policy of the company. So if CFA will verify if everything is okay, then there is a physical verification of the goods. Okay, if he is selling 10 strips, whether 10 strips have been received, if that is done all okay, he will pass a credit note. So there is a timeline TAT, they have turnaround time where they'll pass a credit note and the credit will be given to a retailer, right? So there are specific activities that CFA has to do, and the specific activities after the CFA has received the expiry, the disposal has to be done by the company. It's a responsibility of the company, and there's a prescribed methodology, government authorized agencies which will pick up the drugs, from you, and you need, and that will be disposed, right? And the complete documentation of each and every product, each and every strip is being maintained. How much has been received, what was the weight, what was the quantity, verified, and then it is disposed. This is the additional area which is there in the pharma sector. Then obviously the regular routine, you will be looking at the inventory, you will be looking at the expiry management, and then CFA expense management, because as I mentioned, CFA is basically your extended arm. You're not selling their products to them, but they are working for commission for the company, and you pay the commission based on the sales. So then you also look at. So these are the broader areas which is covered in order to cash process. Now, if we talk about the risk in this whole process, what can go wrong and what we verify. So, this process, as I mentioned, right from the stockist, you have supplied to the stockist without him having the license, you are in trouble. You have supplied, you have taken the stockist where there was no requirement. So, there is no prescriber, there is no patient. You have given them the goods. It's being kept, is bought there by the stockist, but it's not being sold. Again, the expiry will trigger after some time, right? So today you are happy that okay, I've sold the goods, but after 1 year you will see that okay, all my goods are coming back. So ultimately you are in huge loss, right? Because you have done the expenses for getting it sold, everything, and now when it is coming back, you have to repay that money, and there's a cost. So all those stuff, this is a risk. So you, being an auditor, we need to verify that. We need to analyze, as I mentioned, the inventory at CFA level, central warehouse level, SQ wise. It can be location wise. If the inventory is not selling, then what to do? All those stuff. And then coming to the expiry, it is one of the very important thing to ensure that expiry is being disposed in a right manner, credit notes are being made in a right manner. Then also here the spurious, you can also verify. It's very difficult, but you can do some maths of what was sold, what has come back. You can do some assumptions and see the way it should not happen that some of the fake drugs are being just added in the expiry and you are accepting and giving the credit note. That is quite possible, right? Someone who is manufacturing only to give you for expiry and not giving in the market, right? So that is also possible. So you need to be vigilant to understand which product, what is the sales, what is the percentage of expiry that is coming in, and if it is beyond the usual expiry, then you need to see and go back and see that okay, why there so many expiries coming. So this is a risk. Then risk is basically still continuing giving the credit to the companies who are not paying you, or a stockist who is not paying you, the company, right? So that is one of the risks that from the receivable management point of view. Cut-off procedures of the goods are being sold but not shipped from the CFA to stockist. Again, that can be one of the challenge from the cut-off procedure point of view. So all those are the risk that is being there in this whole process. Again, this is one of the complex process from O to C, lot of analytics, documentation, onboarding documentation, agreements with everybody, mainly analytics on the inventory level, aging, how the stock should be refilled, what quantity should be kept at CFA basis the sale. If the sale is not happening at one CFA level of that product, can we move it to the other product? All those stuff needs to be worked out being an internal auditor, and it's an interesting business area where I think we can add a lot of value to the companies. Now, these are, you must have heard, many times talking about inventory management and expiry reduction process. I think, as we discussed, in pharma, the working capital cycles are long. It needs a lot of money to invest in working capital, especially when you are having a multiple SKUs, when you are launching new products. Because you are keeping raw material for at least 3 months, processing for 1 month or 15 days, then keeping in warehouse, then CFA, and then to the stockist. So your first sale is from CFA to stockist, right? It can be 90 to 120 days also, right? And so basically, if you see that, so one is inventory, and again, then whenever your inventory is more in the days number of days, then your expiry will trigger, right? So the main area which is an outcome of this process, O2C, and also combination of O2C and P2P, PPC, production planning control, is basically how we can work out to make sure that goods are speed to market is there. We have a minimum inventory of raw material. It just in time is not possible, but we can we come near to just in time where we don't have to stock much of the inventory. But again, fluctuation, supply chain disruption, depending on the nature of the product, we need to take care of. Yeah, so that is one. Speed to market, inventory at each point, how it should be there, right? So if we have just these are a few points that what exactly and how we can track to ensure that we have inventory management in an optimum manner and expiry reduction is there, right? So to reduce the high inventory coverage, we need to review what production plan for the month, existing SKU stock level, last 6 month SKU sales. What was the last 6 month sales? What is the existing stock level? What is the forecast? What is the expiry of that product? What is the machine availability, maintenance schedule, production wise, product wise, SKUs wise, manufacturing? What is the lead time of raw material? What is the processing time? And what is the overall dispatch logistic time from factory to CWH or CFA. Now you have to consider all those things, and then you need to create a production plan which is linked with your objective, right? And how to do that? Basically, how we will review, how we will be able to monitor that. So basically, we say KPIs or key performance metrics is we'll have to work on the existing inventory level, forecast inventory level, what inventory you want to keep, expiry percentage, SKU wise, regional wise, stock wise, average month sales, etc. And if it is given to third party, what is the ratio of on time delivery? You also have to keep that buffer. So these complexity all you need to figure out, manage, calculate, and then you will be able to reduce the inventory coverage, right? Now, a second example I have taken is, if the sales are not moving. So one example is that, okay, one product is selling good in one area, in one CFA, but it's not selling, in the other CFA area, right? Well, let's say, for example, South. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. A diabetes product is selling better in South because there are more chances of getting diabetes there because of the lifestyle. But for example, in Central India, it's the demand is less. So one option is that you will say, okay, SKU wise you will monitor, right? SQ wise you will monitor, and you will see that, okay, you can't apply a general formula that 3 month stock means 3 month stock everywhere. So sometimes, you're depending on the requirement, if it is fast moving or slow moving, you can work on those parameters. Now, the best part will be to keep on analyzing every month and talking to the marketing team and analyzing and seeing that, okay, see this stock we send there, it's not moving. What can we do to sell that stock? See, stockist is holding the stock. Now, if we don't help him to sell the stock, what will happen? Ultimately again it will come, we'll have to pass a credit note and take the expiry. But can we do something to sell that stock, maybe on the schemes? So there are a lot of schemes that is possible. It can be in that particular area. If that is not selling back, that the based on the trend, I think we have dumped the stock, let's take back the stock from the stockist, or move from that CFA to other CFA. If it is not selling in this area but it is selling in that area, right? So all the product, it can be region wise. Your product can be hero in one product region but not in the other region. So you need to do all those analysis and see that, okay, how we can plan and support to liquidate the slow moving stock, right? This is also one of the, where I see most of the companies missing here to work this on the aggressive manner, because they don't know actually what is the stock lying at a stockist level. Till the CFA level, it's our own arm, it's our extension. Yeah, so they don't, but so we know it's going to self expire or whatever. But if secondary is not happening at a stockist level, then we need to see, do we have, can we develop that mechanism, can we have those kind of discussion and see how we can reduce the expiry, right? Again, this is in line with what we discussed about, if there's a low demand, can we transfer, can we, if there's a low demand in particular area, can we keep only the emergency stock and then transfer when the order comes? So all this is required. See, as the company volume increases, and even if it at a low volume, if this cost of inventory and expiry increases, that business become unviable. So that's why it's important to analyze all this. See, these are some examples, few examples of the area that we covered, is that how we can add value. One way is that as an internal auditor, I go and check, okay, sale bill is done, dispatch is done, cut-off procedure verified, okay, done. So my order to cap, money is coming, I'm not bothered. Expiry is happening, okay, you are recording the expiry, that's fine, as per law, as per Ind AS, as per IRFS, you are recording in a right manner, okay, I'm good, you are giving a right GST treatment, okay, internal audit work is done. I'm talking about internal audit 2. Not 2.0, 4.0. Basically, now at this stage, we need to go and find out a root cause and do all these analysis to tell the client that, see, this is why the expiry are high or it is low. You need to implement these practices. This region is not doing good for this product, so better have only minimal stock, whatever. So we need to set this process, and this definitely the role, ultimately this is a role of management, but we also need to guide management on these practices to be implemented so that we can really add value to the organization. So this is the last part of my presentation today, is legislation overview. What kind of structure today is there in Department of Government of India established for Indian drug regulatory system? We'll see what are the departments that are there in the whole ecosystem, where which company has to take licenses as a regulator, and what are their roles, and few couple of laws or peculiar laws that is there specific to this industry, which law is basically applicable, and how it's been addressed. So if we talk about regulatory framework, so Indian drug regulatory system has multiple ministries which handles the complete ecosystem. Here I'm talking about the complete ecosystem, which will take care of your patents, which will take care of your biotechnology, NPPA, pricing, approval of drugs, everything. So under Government of India, there are Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, there is Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Chemical and Petrochemical, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Environment and Forest. So these are basically the ecosystem in the drug regulatory system. And under each ministry, there are basically the segments or departments, you can say, like under Ministry of Health and Family, there is Director General of Health Services, DGHS, which will approve basically your all your products. CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization. There is NPPA, right? So the NPPA basically National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, which decides the pricing of ceiling limit of the scheduled drugs, or basically the essential drugs, right? Then there is a Department of Pharmaceuticals, right? So these are all departments or a regulatory system for this ecosystem. Well, it's just for your overview or understanding how it exactly works. So in any company, there will be a dust. So what I'm trying to present here is what are the process and which department you will have to go. It's just for an overview. So if there is a dust discovery and research, then there is this ministry under that these departments that you have to reach out to. For example, if there is a drug promotion issues, drug promotion rules, then you will go to CDSCO. If there is drug pricing, then under DGHS, it will be basically NPPA, right? And if there is a pharmacovigilance, then there will be IPC, Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission. So these are basically role-based, segmentation. Where if there is a manufacturing issue, then you have to go to Director General of Health Services. So these are basically the structure which is well structured in India. It's a robust system. Sometimes the companies do complain that it's a slow system. But you would appreciate this whole healthcare ecosystem is for the quality of the healthcare that can be provided to patient. Once the drug is approved, it will go, and you don't know how it will impact the patient in the society, right? So that's why it's critical also to thoroughly examine and then approve the drugs. Though it take a lot of time if you do R&D, new products, then trials and all those stuff. So that all is done by all these departments, which is a complex structure. So if we talk about, as I mentioned, if we talk about the regulatory applicability of regulation in the pharma, this is one of the most regulated industry. So if you talk about automobile, right? So it will have, okay, corporate law, it will have labor law, it will have environmental law. That's fine. If you talk about steel industry, it will have health and safety, it will have all these. But when you talk about pharmaceutical, there are a lot of other regulations that are also applicable depending on the products that you are making. And over and above, if you are exporting it to US FDA, then it's a different story, right? You will have a US FDA audit. If you are exporting to EU, you will have European audits. If you are supplying to some other country, then they'll have those audits. So Indian GMP, WHO GMP, and then their practices also you have to follow if you are manufacturing for exports. And you will see that even small units, they aim to export outside India. So they have to follow that. So one is the law and regulation, which is, and as I mentioned, if you're exporting, you are into multiple narcotics or psychocritical drugs, you are into domestic formulation and good size, then you will have at least 50 to 70 laws which will be applicable, right from including all specific to pharma and other general laws also, right? A couple of laws which are applicable here, specifically one is food and safety. If you see someone who is working on nutraceuticals or these kind of products, then food license or food and safety law is applicable. Trademark is one of the important trademark is one of the important factor in pharmaceutical, because all your value is on that trademark that you are having. If you have an infringement, then the valuation is gone. So it's very important to ensure what processes we can look at when you are launching the drug, so that there is no potential dispute going forward. So when you are launching any product, when you are finalizing the name, is it, when you are doing a search of the name of the product, so it's not contradictory, you have a clear cut go for this, so that tomorrow you don't have any issue with the trademark, right? So that is one. Trademark is applicable to almost all the industry, but here one company, if they have 5,000 SKUs, they might have 1,000 trademarks, because they have 1,000 brand name, right? So very critical, because that is a core IP. Then there is a patent act. A lot of companies now in India, as we spoke about, self-reliance on the API, quality, accessibility, and innovation. So innovation, a lot of companies are now in India also filing for patents. So it's very important, to protect their IP. So important to know and implement the Patent Act. Uniform Code of Pharmaceuticals Marketing Practices, UCPMP. Currently, it's voluntary, but you all, those who work in this whole sector, they will be aware now. There are a lot of discussion around this, and this is one of the very critical thing if gets implemented. So what communication you can do, what advertisement you can do, how you can promote or market the product, what you can give as a service to your customers, that all is very critical, in this industry. So you see, PMP is one of the important guidelines. It's like our CA Institute code of conduct that we have, right? It's very similar to that. We all know that it's not very easy to adhere to those guidelines. So same way it's UCPMP. We need to understand whether the company is following UCPMP guidelines, or today it's voluntary, but tomorrow any movement it can be compulsory. So whether company is aligned towards getting in those direction. So these were some state government laws that is applicable at a company level. Now, if you talk about manufacturing unit level, sorry, if you talk about the manufacturing unit level, then there is the most important is Drug and Cosmetic Act 1940. Now, if you would have seen that Schedule M has been revised and amended in 23, basically 23, 24, in terms of having WHO GMP for all the plants, right? That is the step towards transparency and towards the quality management, upkeeping the quality of drugs that is manufactured in India. So all those kind of steps are being taken to ensure the quality is upheld for the drugs that is being made in India. So again, Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940, huge act. We need to understand it's applicable to the companies who are importing, manufacturing, distributing, or selling the drugs and cosmetics. Essential commodity, drug price, DPCO, we say drug price control order. So this is basically, government wants to control the pricing of essential medicines, which is required by a general public, which is a normal medicine, which will be required by most of the people. Government want that this pricing should be controlled, so that it's accessible to everybody and it is affordable. So there's a ceiling price of scheduled formulation. So the formulation is being given by the government. Okay, from today you cannot sell this medicine for more than, let's say, 100 rupees, right? And every year there is 10%, I think, increment which is allowed. So you need to follow, as an auditor, we need to see, okay, what are the combinations of this which has been scheduled under a DPCO, and looking at the client, we need to see that, okay, whether the right action has been taken, whether the MRP has been changed, or from the new batch the right MRP is being issued. Then Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Drugs, Psychotropic Substances Act, it controls basically how the drug should be kept, delivered, transported, used, what are the rules, don'ts, very stringent law around this. We have seen very practical cases where without the licenses, psychotropic substances were used or narcotic drugs were used in few factories, and what is the impact? Still, the directors, are behind the bars. So it's a very stringent law. So all this we need to understand. Apart from that, there are environmental laws. As I mentioned, water law, air pollution law, disposal of waste, etc., etc. So all this basically is there. But these are the few important laws or regulations which is specific to pharmaceutical, and I thought it's important to discuss on that. So these are the few of them out of those 60, 70 which is applicable. Now, coming to the last part, this is technical guide on internal audit of pharmaceutical sector 2023 edition, which was authored by me and Komal. So this is available in ICI website if you are, working or you want to start working on the pharmaceutical sector. So this is a technical guide which we spoke. Most of that is there in this guidance note. Basically technical guide. Basically, it covers all the process, individual process, step by step, and it also covers how it should be audited. It covers the RCM, risk control metrics, and the process, and what are the risk involved. So it's a guide which can at least help you or your team to start the audit and understand the concept. So that's it from my side for this session, and I'm happy to take the questions and brainstorm if any one of you would have. Yeah, over to you, Priyanka.
Sir, we have not received any questions so far.
Sorry.
We have not received any question from the attendees so far.
Okay, so
Shall we wait for a few minutes?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Mohit sir, we have received a few questions. Shall I proceed? Okay. The question is, how do you analyze risk in a case where a generic drug is sold from India to, say, for instance, South Africa, considering differences between parenting regimes across countries?
Yeah, so basically you are talking about how do you analyze risk in case of where a generic drug is sold from India to, say, for instance, South Africa, considering differences between patenting regimes across countries. See, basically what happens is one of, you can't make the patented drug, first of all. If it is patented technology, you cannot make that drug, whether it in generic or branded generics, right? So if it is once it is off patent, then only you can do. And if you have the patent which you have, then you will have to register in various countries as per the patent laws. Now, after getting off patented, then you can sell. How do you analyze risk of
Risk of
possible claims of
possible
various
claims.
drugs developed during
In
clinical
clinical
studies.
studies of drug trials.
See, this you can't analyze honestly as an internal auditor because it's very technical. R&D is a subject where R&D is a subject where you need to discuss with the regulatory team, and there are a lot of study that company does before getting into the R&D process. But what you can do is monitor their timelines, monitor okay what results are expected, if there's any early signs of failure or something that has come in, then we can obviously look at it and do it. So basically what we do is that we sit with the team, we understand what kind of combinations the company is trying to bring in terms of R&D, what is the backing behind that. We go a little technical on that, understand what is the budget, who is going to do it, how the trials will happen, then what is the plan, whether you are following that plan, and if there's an early sign of those things, then we can address that.
Okay, the next question is are there any specific rules for generic pharma industry?
Rules, I'm not very clear. Rules in what sense? Generic pharma, generic is anything which is being. So there are two kind of generic, when you can say. One is the pure generic that we are seeing in Jan Aushadhi, or all most of the domestic pharma companies have also launched, and then there is a branded generics, which is sold through a brand. So more or less, the quality, the specific. If you talk about the distribution rules, if you talk about the law, it remains same. Yes, practices can be different. For example, one of the practices, as I mentioned, branded generics, your credit terms will be 7 days, 21 days. But what we have seen in the industry is that if it is generic, your credit terms will be 60 days, 90 days. So that is a practice that is there. In generics, you don't take back. Take back the expiry, right? It is sold and it's sold at that risk. But whereas in branded generics, that risk is there with the company, and obviously there's a margin also. So that is how it's being taken care. But as such, rules, I would say it's the same, but practices are different, right? And also in terms of manufacturing, there can be some liberty in terms of okay WGMP or GMP.
Okay, the next
The
question.
impact of US Biosecure Act on Indian companies and China. Sorry, I'm not clear on this one.
Okay. Thank you, CM Mohit sir, for the wisdom and insights you have shared with us on this topic. It's a great learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, Priyanka, Board of Internal Audit and Management Accounting team, for having me here today. I hope there was some value addition that I could make. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye.